The following program contains spoilers for Star Wars The Old Republic and content up to the Onslaught update. It also depicts scenes from another Star franchise. Viewer discretion is advised. December of 2021, the massively multiplayer online role-playing game Star Wars The Old Republic celebrates its 10th anniversary. Shortly after that, in 2022, Update 7.0 Legacy of the Sith will be released. With it comes new content and a snazzy new interface. In this video, I'll talk about one thing that the SWTOR devs at BioWare have neglected and how one would go about implementing this element back into the game. Before we do, let's set things up. When you think about Star Wars or having a Star War, for me there are two things that come to mind. Those things are lightsabers and spaceships, and in the beginning, SWTOR didn't disappoint. Players got their lightsabers and got great looking ships to hop around in the galaxy far, far away. In fact, each player class got their own ship except for the two classes that had a connection with the Force. Those classes shared a ship design with their respective order. Those ships weren't only for show. SWTOR players got to have their ships involved in pew-pews with space missions. Shortly under a year later, even the space missions got heroic, and players at the time had to upgrade their ships to complete those difficult missions. Almost another year after the heroic missions got released, Galactic Starfighter came out, and that brought about a new mode for player versus player. Being a Starship and Starfighter junkie, this update thrilled me initially, and I was loving it in the early days. However, this PvP experience soured quickly, and I have not played many more games of that mode after that. Galactic Starfighter was the last update players would get to do anything with a starship in the game. Fast forward almost 2 years later, and SWTOR releases Knights of the Fallen Empire, or KOTV, in 2015. In the opening chapter of this installment, the player's companions escape the attack by the Eternal Empire in your class ship. After that, the player is seen taking their adventures on the Gravestone or the transport known as the Mach 2. It wasn't until Chapter 9 of KOTV that players were reunited with their beloved ship. It was also in this update that when a player returned to their ship, they'd find it empty. Your companions would return to you and your ship in a future update, but it was definitely lonely times. Other than being a home base or going around from planet to planet, there isn't anything else for you to do with your spaceship. Sure, you can get some conquest points for playing space missions, but as established earlier, there have not been new missions since the game was shy of its second year. This, dear viewer, is where I think that the Old Republic and developer BioWare dropped the proverbial Huttball. It has been said that in the offices of BioWare Austin, there is a wall of crazy, and I'd like to indulge myself and lay down my idea for it. Now, this idea would involve time travel, and even that is too crazy for the aforementioned wall. However, it was the perfect spot to bring back space missions, as we waited 3 months and sometimes 2 months in between chapters of KOTV or even Knights of the Eternal Throne. That wait is a major gripe I have with the game, but I digress. As we waited for new content to drop from KOTV or even KOTET, I would add space missions to go along with the grinding we did in the Star Fortresses. Thematically, we could have been an even bigger thorn to the Eternal Empire's side. For example, one mission could be intercepting shipments that were meant as payment to Arkin or Valen, respectively. On the game side, it would have been refreshing to do something other than being grounded with lightsabers or blasters for the nth time. My next point of entry requires less time travel and brings us to the latest content expansion before Legacy of the Sith, Onslaught. In Onslaught, the Republic fleet has to get to Corellia, and depending on what side you're on, you're either helping or you're hindering. Because we didn't get any new space missions since 2012, I take a page from another MMORPG, and one that is from another of the Star franchises, Star Trek Online. In that game, you either have ground missions or the space ones, and boy oh boy are the space missions fun. Anyways, STO has the player arriving in the system, and sometimes you'll have a space battle before you're able to beam down to continue. This is what I would do for Onslaught, and how I would get players back into space missions. Have them be a part of the story. Then, BioWare could do what they do best and make some of that copy pasta for space missions on the side. Just imagine how awesome it would be getting to Corellia with your ship and punching your way through the fleet as you proceed to your mission to the Meridian Complex. The player count for space missions probably does not justify the devs to revisit them. As I mentioned from the start, space missions are one of the main ingredients for Star Wars, especially using them in battle. If the player cannot do that anymore, we've lost a major part that makes Star Wars what it is. I'd like to thank Alex D on Twitter for helping me with the dates. Finally, I'd like to thank you for watching this and making it this far. Hopefully you enjoyed my take on where a game most of us love can improve. I also hope to share more ideas in the future, but we'll have to wait and see if it's in the cards. Oh, and one more thing. If you got something to say, go down below and...
Enter your name, pilot.